If you're home alone right now, turn this off. A few years ago, my parents went on vacation for about 2 weeks, and I stayed at their house to look after it while they were gone. My job was pretty simple: feed their canary, cut the grass, bring in the mail, and make the place look like someone was living there. I even put a few lamps on timers and changed the on and off times every day so it wouldn't look predictable if anyone happened to be watching the house. Since their place was closer to where I worked, I figured I'd just stay there instead of driving back and forth every day. The first night after work, I pulled into the driveway and immediately noticed something strange. The light in my parents' bedroom was on. That didn't make any sense. I hadn't put any timers in their bedroom, so there was no reason for that light to be on. I suddenly got that uneasy feeling that somebody might actually be inside. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could and searched the entire house. Every room, every closet. Nothing. No signs that anyone had been there. So I went upstairs, turned the light off, and figured maybe I had somehow missed it earlier. Later that night, I watched some TV, ate dinner, and eventually headed upstairs to go to bed. The bedroom light was on again. At that point, I honestly didn't know what to think. I don't believe in ghosts or anything paranormal, but seeing the same thing happen twice in one night definitely got under my skin. I turned it off again and went to sleep. The next morning, the light was still off. That made me think maybe whatever happened the night before was just a weird coincidence. I had breakfast, got ready for work, then went upstairs to take a shower. The light was on again. There was no way anyone had gone up there. I was the only person in the house. At that point, I unplugged the lamp completely. I figured that would finally settle it. That evening, after work, I drove back expecting. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. Part of me was almost convinced I'd walk in and somehow see that light glowing again, but it never did. The lamp stayed off for the rest of the 2 weeks. When my parents got home, I told them what had happened. Mum just laughed and said that lamp had a bad electrical short. Apparently, it would randomly switch itself on, which was exactly why they had moved it into the small sitting room beside their bedroom instead of throwing it away right away. Eventually, they got it repaired, and after that, it never turned itself on again. Looking back, it was a completely ordinary explanation, but when you're alone in someone else's house, and a light that shouldn't be on keeps turning itself back on, it creates a really unsettling feeling that sticks with you. This happened sometime around 2010 or 2011. It was just me and my little brother at home. He was about 10 years old. I was in our dining room, which also had the family computer, playing games online. While I was sitting there, I was drinking soda from one of my mum's vintage Coca-Cola glasses. Then I accidentally dropped it. It shattered all over the floor. My mum had a pretty bad temper, so I immediately started panicking. My brother suggested that if we cleaned the house before she got home, maybe she wouldn't be as angry. It sounded like a good idea. I stayed in the dining room to clean up the broken glass. He went to clean the small bathroom. The layout of our house is important. When you walked through the front door, you stepped straight into the dining room. The living room was off to the left. The kitchen was directly ahead. The bathroom was just past the kitchen. The staircase to the second floor started in the living room, just around the corner from where I was cleaning. As I was picking up the broken glass, I suddenly heard someone running. The footsteps came from the direction of the kitchen. They ran right past me. I looked up just in time to see what I thought was my little brother sprint around the corner toward the stairs. I watched him disappear around the corner. Then I heard the footsteps pounding all the way up the staircase. Without really thinking, I yelled after him, "Dustin, what are you doing? I thought you said we were cleaning." Almost immediately, my brother leaned his head out of the bathroom. He looked confused. He said, "I'm cleaning." The second he answered, my stomach dropped. There was no way. I had just watched someone who looked exactly like him run past me and go upstairs. I asked him, "Did you hear those footsteps?" He nodded. "Yeah, I thought it was you." I told him it wasn't. I hadn't moved from the dining room. Neither of us said much after that. I grabbed a kitchen knife, and together we slowly walked upstairs. We searched every bedroom, every closet, every corner. There was nobody there. No open windows. No place anyone could have hidden. To this day, I still don't know what ran past me, but I know what I saw. I saw a little boy who looked exactly like my brother run around that corner and disappear up the stairs. When I was a kid, the thing I hated more than anything was taking my dirty clothes down to the basement so my mum could wash them. The laundry area wasn't finished. It was just bare concrete, exposed wood, and shadows. For some reason, That part of the basement terrified me. I had the same nightmares about it over and over. One of them always started with me alone in the house. Everything seemed normal. But then, I'd suddenly realize it was getting close to the time. I don't know what time it was supposed to be. I just knew something bad was about to happen. I'd crawl under the kitchen table, because the basement door was right there in the kitchen. Then the basement door would slowly open. I never saw a face. All I could see were the legs of a man standing in the doorway. I knew that if he found me, something horrible would happen. The worst part wasn't even seeing him. It was the feeling that he already knew exactly where I was. He wasn't searching for me. He was just enjoying the fact that I was hiding there, completely terrified. Another nightmare was even worse. I'd be walking down the basement stairs, already knowing what was waiting for me at the bottom. I wanted to stop. I knew I shouldn't keep going, but I couldn't. I'd step off the last stair. The basement would suddenly go completely dark. Then something would grab me. I've never been able to describe how terrified those dreams made me feel. Even after waking up, that fear would stay with me. Almost every nightmare I had somehow involved that basement. I absolutely hated going down there. One afternoon, I had to take another load of laundry downstairs. I was home alone, except for my dog. I figured having her with me would make it a little less scary. So I grabbed the laundry, called my dog, and headed down. It was the middle of the day. Sunlight was coming through the small basement windows. Everything looked completely normal. I tossed my clothes onto the pile beside the washing machine, then turned back toward the stairs. No matter how many times I went down there, I always ran back up. I was a skinny kid, so my footsteps were almost silent. Then, out of nowhere, I heard loud pounding footsteps charging up the stairs right behind me. Not walking, running. The sound was so sudden and so close that my brain just shut off. I screamed. My heart felt like it was going to explode. Instead of running faster, I completely froze. I dropped onto the stairs, curled into a ball, squeezed my eyes shut, and honestly thought I was about to die. After years of being told monsters weren't real, I was convinced one had finally caught me. Then, I felt something wet on my face. I opened my eyes. It was my dog. She'd been racing up the stairs behind me the whole time, and thought we were playing a game.